too many leads. What a problem to have, right? Well, you want to see how this busy mom filled her client pipeline and had too many leads? See, when the pandemic hit last year, so many people had to shift the way that they were doing things and try something different. So for many people, it was a wake-up call. Now, Linda decided to build a quiz funnel. Well, you want to know her numbers? Well, check it out. She got 230 leads in less than 2 weeks, and it worked so well that she had to turn it off. Stay tuned to see Linda's quiz and watch her story here. But first, let me share something with you that I think you're gonna love, because right now, you get your hands on my entire full quiz funnel blueprint right here, which is a 25-page downloadable PDF that gives you the entire quiz funnel map all in one place. It's the exact process that I personally followed myself to build quiz funnels in 23 different markets, to build multiple seven-figure businesses, and become a #1 national best-selling author and Inc. 500 CEO. Just click the link with this video to download the full blueprint right here, right now, for free. Now, once you've checked out the blueprint for yourself, you might still have some questions, like what exactly does a quiz funnel look like? Is a quiz funnel right for you and your business? How do you know what your quiz should be about? Well, I'm going to be diving into these questions and more on a special once-a-year, totally free quiz funnel workshop that I'm hosting literally days from right now. Now, if you want to find out more about how to implement quiz funnels in your business, go ahead and click the link with this video to get instant access to the quiz funnel blueprint, and I'll also put you on the notification list for once we go live with this free training. All right, I'm going to leave you with that for now, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Hey, this is Ryan Levesque here, and I'm really excited for this next interview because we're going to be talking about someone who was very successful and is very successful in her business, but she was operating under this paradigm where she had to generate leads and customers by going to offline events, like networking events and large events and things like that. And for anybody who's kind of been in that situation, well, you know, COVID and the global pandemic kind of disrupted that whole way of doing things. As a result, she transitioned her business to a more online focused way of generating leads and customers, and she's done it with a quiz funnel. And she's gotten some pretty incredible results. And for anybody who's in that situation where you're looking to go from an offline to online sort of business model, for anybody who's been in the kind of the world of networking events and the trap of that, I think you're going to find our special guest of the hour, her story, quite inspiring and quite interesting as well. So with that said, I'd love to invite our special guest, the one, the only, Ms. Linda Basso. Linda, it is an absolute honor to have you here.
Great, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you know, before we talk about your quiz, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your business. Who do you serve? What do you sell? Give us a little bit of context.
Yeah, so I serve small business owners and I help them grow their business, but not in the way that you do, Ryan, but more in a way that honors who they are as a unique person and really fits them and their unique lifestyle, especially if they have big, busy personal lives and, you know, they want to sort of have success, but not at the cost, not arriving there and saying, ooh, what, you know, is this what I wanted?
You know, I love that. I think so many of us, it's, you know, we hear these stories of great success and then you learn the truth behind it and like the level of sacrifice and compromise that people had to make in other areas of their life in order to achieve, you know, that level of business success. It's at the end of the day, you know, maybe it wasn't worth it. So doing it with balance and, you know, I love that you're doing that because it's, you know, near and dear to my heart. My kiddos are in the other room right now, just outside, you know, to be able to, you know, be the best dad that I can and best husband at the same time as being successful in business is tantamount for me. It's so important. So I love what you do and I love who you serve. But I'm curious, like, how'd you get into that? Like, what were you doing before that? What was your life like before you started this business?
So I've been in business for myself for 20-some years. So it's always been like this for me. But when I chose my career, I was in college. I was an art student because it's the only thing that I really like to do. And I was wandering through the halls of the art center, and there was a graphic design show. And I was like, oh, a businessy way of doing art. Like I won't starve, right? Like this was going to be acceptable to my parents that I chose graphic design as a major. But instead of being happy, I was happy for about 5 seconds. And then I thought, I just sold my soul to the devil, right? Like I just signed up to be in a terrible industry, one that doesn't serve the planet. I'm going to be hustling and like creating demand for things that people don't need. And that line of thinking stayed with me for 18 years as I ran my own business, moving from graphic design into branding. And even though I was doing, great work for fun companies like Kimpton Hotels and Restaurants and Jamba Juice and Disney, and I was winning awards and getting them, good coverage like in Wall Street Journal or even on the cover of Wired magazine. But at the same time, in my personal life, I felt like I had to atone for this unsavory day job that I had, even though it was my own business, So I was like in my personal life, learning to meditate and becoming a yoga teacher and going to, personal growth this and healing circles and like trying to save the planet with love. But I felt like a fraud in both places. So in my personal life, I would not say I'm the owner of a firm and I do branding work for Kimpton. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. And then, but in this, the meetings with Kimpton or whoever, I was like going in and I would not say, hey, can we take a moment and get grounded and like get connected in before we have this meeting? I wasn't doing that either. So I felt like a fraud in both places. And then about 7 years ago, with the birth of my second child, my daughter, I just thought I finally was good enough that I didn't have to work a ton of hours to make the money that I needed to make. And I thought, this is it. This is my chance to make a difference for the world. And we moved to Northern California. We moved north up to a rural area, and I started coaching, right? I got my coaching certificate, and I thought, I'm gonna help people now. And so then I tried to coach parents, which was a disaster. I just realized, like I can't be all day with parents. They're crazy. I'm crazy. I'm going to go home and try to be a parent. So my mentor at the time said, why are you throwing out, almost 20 years of business experience? Like, can't you coach in the business space? And that was, again, a ding, ding, ding of, oh, if I coach a very small business owner, right? Like the solopreneur, like kind of how you and Tylene got started. If I coach a person at that level, then I am having all the impact that I want to have. I'm helping them. I'm helping the ripple out through their community, their family. And that's sort of like the winning formula for me, is that I get to do the transformational growth work, but I get to do it in the business realm where like having a small business owner be able to make a living and, like you said, work it out with their family is just a huge, huge gift and blessing for me now.
I love that. I love so much about that. I mean, it's so cool because, you've reached a point in your life, which I think is a place where a lot of people reach where, we no longer want to compromise on the things that are important to us. We want to generate an income that allows us to live the life that we want to live and support the causes that we believe in. At the same time, we want to do something that's in integrity with our values and what we believe in, and allows us to make an impact. With the short time that we all have, the precious time that we have, on this planet. And so to be able to find that, I think is really, really special and inspiring. Now, I want to talk about the quiz here, but before we do so, I want to talk a little bit about what life was like before the quiz. So, you reached this point, you arrived at this paradigm, this model, coaching early stage entrepreneurs who, maybe are, at that early stage of their business and maybe have families or juggling a whole bunch of different things and everything like that. But talk to us a little bit about where you were finding clients. Like, what was your marketing like? How are you getting clients? And specifically talking about what we chatted about briefly, just, the offline work that you were doing at networking events and things like that.
Yeah, so because I started off in coaching, the fastest path to cash in coaching is one-on-one clients, right? So I was just looking at my area around me, because even though I had a marketing or branding background at that time, I had no idea how to market us, like to be in business for yourself, where it's like corporate clients are a whole different thing. So I started, slogging it over to whatever networking group happened to be gathering, right? And I'm looking for this type of entrepreneur who's open to personal growth. And, so I couldn't just drop into like the local chamber of commerce. I'm like looking for these little, micro groups and different conferences that have this right type of person who's a good fit for me. And, I'm always talking about authenticity. So I have to like find people who are okay with that. And so I was going to, networking events, conferences, and a conference meant, leaving my own family for a few days, which I realized 3 days was my max, right? After on the third night, I was like weepy and like, this isn't right. I shouldn't be here, and my kids were FaceTime or Zooming or whatever we were doing, just so flying to conferences, going to network meetings. But in the meantime, I'm doing all my work on the phone. right? So I'm literally never with a client in person, but I'm marketing myself in person. And frankly, one of my biggest way of generating leads, this will make you laugh, is to go give a speech. Right. So I would go give a talk. I would set up this, I'd have to find the right groups and pitch myself. And then I would go and I'd deliver this massive value for 45 minutes. And I would walk home with a sheet, that people had filled in their names and emails. And I'd be like, I had 23 leads tonight. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think I can totally relate, and I think a lot of people can relate to stories like that, where it's like, you put all this time, you think about all the time and effort that goes into it, from pitching the event on being a speaker, not landing every single one, so you've got to take a couple swings of the bat, so to speak, before you land every single one. Then you get there and your fingers crossed there are going to be actually people in the room. We've all spoken to rooms that we thought were going to be a little bit bigger than they were. Right? It's nothing worse than speaking in front of a room and saying, there are a lot of empty chairs in here. What's going on? Or the room's a little bit smaller than we expect. And then, like you said, when you're traveling, it's like you got to get in the car, you got to drive to the airport, you got to park the car at the airport, then you got to wait in security, then you got to go through that whole thing, and then you go on the airplane, and then you get there, you're tired. And, by the time you get there, I've done this when I've had young kids and have young kids now, and it's like, you're FaceTime with your kids and you're missing special stuff at home, and then, you're away, and there's so much time for, a 20-minute or 45-minute or, 90-minute at best case talk that you're delivering. And you think like the days involved with doing that, and you walk away with this, like you said, 23 leads on a sheet, and then you got to do the whole thing all over again next week if you want to get it again. It's like this never-ending hamster wheel. So, but I think the place that a lot of people are at is that they're stuck. They say yes, but what do I do instead? I don't love it, but it's working, and I'm afraid to try something new. I'm afraid to leave that paradigm and try something new. And that's what I'd love to maybe shift our attention to and talk a little bit about, sort of, coming from that world and then deciding to try a quiz funnel as a way to get leads. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, so I think when you make this decision, you have to start looking around and saying like, well, then what will I do instead? And so, a quiz funnel is like one of the choices, and there are other choices. And so, I'm all about authenticity. So first, going through that process to like, maybe you're viewing things like this, or you're doing your research, like, do your due diligence so that you feel like this is a valid path. But if you're an introvert like myself, or you felt like those in-person things were a little bit taxing and you'd rather not, and you love spending the day in your office, this is one where, you're going to get to do that. You're going to get to spend your time really thinking about your clients, putting it together in a way that's that you're really being of service to them, right? Because you're actually going to solve a problem for them. Like a quiz is not, first I was thinking it was kind of like a trivial, fun thing, which I think there's a place for that, right? I think that can be to lighten someone's day. But these are very serious quizzes. Right? This is where you have a method where you're saying like, this is where the person's coming in, and this is the real thing they need, right? This is the cure, not the Band-Aid, and that's profound, right? To think through somewhat you're the person that you love to serve, to really think that through for them in a way that you could deliver that 24/7, right? Like I can't be on the phone diagnosing folks 24/7. I barely can do, I don't like to do intake calls at all. So, but my quiz is out there doing that. My quiz is out there saying, hey, if you have this problem, answer these questions, give me a few minutes of your time, and I'm going to help you start to solve that problem. I'm going to give you some good, solid advice that you can start implementing.
Yeah, it's like the quiz is almost like a member of your team that's doing all that heavy work for you. It's like you set it up and you helped get it going, but it's like, it's all right, quiz, and maybe we can give a name to our quizzes one day. Your quiz is doing all that work for you while you're able to do more of what you love and really what's in your zone of genius. So you're not having those one-on-one conversations over and over again or flying out to the next talk. Your quiz is just doing that heavy lifting, and you're doing the parts of your business that you love. Before we dive into the results of the quiz, you touched on something that I'd love for you to maybe talk about in a little bit more detail, which is, you were in the situation, you knew you wanted to do something different, you're evaluating the menu of options that you have. Like quiz, as you mentioned, is one path. A quiz funnel is one path. You could have done a whole bunch of other things. What kind of led you to the decision of saying, you know what, I'm going to go all in on a quiz funnel. That's the thing that I want to do. Of all the other options, like I could start a podcast, I could start a YouTube channel, I could do guest blog posts, I could do all these million other things that I could do. But I'm going to do a quiz funnel. What was it about the quiz funnel that sold it for you?
Well, so it's not a pushy form of marketing, which is really, I can't do that. Like that's not authentic to me. I feel terrible. So when I thought about mining leads on LinkedIn, and sending people cold outreaches like, hey, I don't know you, but I want you to be part of my network. And here's a video I did for you. And like, it's that kind of cold outreach it's not resonant with me. Right. And neither are these summits. Right. I had a lot of opportunities to do summits, and I thought, I am never going to overwhelm my people with like, hey, 42 interviews that you can listen to for 3 days for $39. All of that sounds terrible to me.
Right.
So, as I was going through looking at the different options and podcasts, like I do not want to curate that much content every single week for, 52 weeks before I'm starting to get some organic growth.
It's fun for about a week, right? We're like, oh, this is fun. This is new. And then like 17 weeks into the thing, you're like, oh my gosh, like please someone get me out of this prison I've created for myself. I totally get it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they, when I really got into the podcast where I was like, oh, they batch, like they're doing like 5-6 episodes. They're spending 3 days in a row to do this. And like, maybe I'm willing to do that for a boot camp or something where I'm actually with paying people and we're really diving into their stuff. But just to churn out free content like that is not really my thing. So the quiz seemed to have the right mix of, popularity, like people want to take quizzes. There's this like psychology of wanting to know, are you that way? Do you have that thing? Right? So that it's not a push, it's a pull. It's an attraction, or like creating a some kind of resonance with the person. They're clicking on it because it's something that's interesting to them. They're giving information, and hopefully the questions are like lighting some things up for them, right? Giving them a little bit of self-knowledge as they're going through it, making them think about things that they haven't had to think about, or that haven't been in their conscious mind about their business. And then they're getting a result, and it's starting to, like you said, shift their point of view, because really at some level, all business growth is really about changing someone's mind. Right? Because if they knew how to do the growth, if they really your team has it down, like you probably don't need many mindset shifts at this point, right? Like you're like, oh, we just turn this up, or I need another person here. It's like very logistical. But in that beginning stage, when you're trying to figure it out, it's not logistical. It's usually you have to change the way you think.
Right.
And a quiz is a great thing to get someone started on that path. And like you said, I did all the, you do the back end work and you're doing it and you put a lot into it, but then it just goes and goes and goes of its own accord. And I can then now be creating content for that next level of growth.
Right. Right. I love it. I love it so much. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about that, because I think there are a lot of people who may resonate with your story, and they're in that situation right now where they're saying, right, I know I don't want this, because you've heard me teach this before. People don't know what they want, but they do know what they don't want. Like, I don't want to be getting on a plane. I don't want to be away from my family. I don't want to be doing this and this and this, but I'm not quite sure what I want to do instead. So hearing your journey and how you went through that process of discovery and decision around, all right, I'm going in on this strategy. Here's the reasons why I was attracted to this. I think it's really helpful for people to hear that. What I'd love to do now is kind of talk a little bit about the quiz that you've just launched. So like, we're early days. It's really, really exciting. I love it when people get like fast, immediate results like this. It's really, really cool. Talk to us a little bit about kind of results and, how long ago did we launch the quiz? What are we paying in terms of our cost per lead online? And then how does that compare to the time, effort, energy, and money you would have spent in your old paradigm, flying to speak at or participate in a networking event? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Sure.
So my version of the quiz that I'm running now just launched on Saturday. So, I'm getting good results, but they're like, we'll circle back. But the quiz that I did that you were asking about, we did a test, right? So I think that's another like fallacy that you're just going to, like, when someone sees these a success story, they're like, oh, but she just turned it on and it worked, and that would work for her, but that would never work for me. No, this was like, I did it in December and it didn't work. And I spent a lot of money and my Facebook account got turned off and like all kinds of bad happened, right? So
Right.
recalibrate and did some other things, got myself more in alignment with what I was wanting to do, turned it on in March. And this time my husband and I turned it on, right? So we had to get clear that like we had some lurky fears there about like, what's going to happen if her business blows up, and, does that mean she's not available? And like,
Right.
we had to talk through. And so now we were looking at Facebook and the quiz and turning it on together. Cause I said, okay, we've got to get these first 100 leads. Like that's my next step.
Yeah.
So we kind of tackled it together and turned it on for 2 weeks in March as a test to get that 100 leads so that we could then take the next step. And in that time, I think we got 230 leads or 227 leads or something. We were like, oh, whoa, it's really working. But, we were turning ads on and off and monitoring them. And
Right.
we were wondering what the benchmarks were. We didn't have really the benchmarks at that point. So we're like, I think that's good. And, so,
Right.
So in that 2 week period, that we just had this sort of massive flood. And then we were like, oh, the back end's not ready. Right. So turn it off. And like, we'll circle back.
But it's so exciting when you think about like the fact that, in your old paradigm, you would go to an event and be lucky to walk away with a piece of paper with 23 names and maybe email addresses, or maybe just email addresses that you're walking away with, and for all the time, effort, and energy you'd spend to go to that one event, whereas you just you flip the switch on, and in a matter of 2 weeks, at home, not having to travel or anything like that, getting 10 times the number of leads, 230 leads, and not just knowing their name and email address, but knowing all of the other information that you've been able to ask along the way in the quiz. So you have some context around their responses, so you can follow up with them and respond to them in a way that's customized to their situation. So just frame of reference, cost per lead, just give us a neighborhood of, what those leads on the quiz cost versus, in the old paradigm in a sort of networking event, what that might look like for you.
Right, so a local networking event, you paid anywhere between $35 and $50 to attend that lunch, that breakfast, that whatever, right? And it's not like I came home with a solid lead. Occasionally I came home with like a follow-up call to do or something, but more I was just growing my network, and, and then business would bubble up through that. So you never could actually ascertain like, how much did I actually spend for that lead? Was it only $35 for the one breakfast, or did I do 6 of those, right? And did I also meet her for coffee? And did I, like, how much did that lead really cost? Like $200? I don't know. It costs a lot of time, right?
Right.
Or if I went to a conference, then there were thousands of dollars. And yes, if you were the speaker, you came home with more leads. But I'm guessing it's in that $30, $40 to $200 level, right? By the time you put all that in. And it worked because I was only selling a high-end program. So it's sort of like it all worked in the wash, but like we've said, it was a little taxing on me. And then the leads that I'm getting now are, consistently $9 to $11.
Wow. I mean, it's a game changer, right? And for some people, they might say, wait, $9 to $11, that sounds like a lot of money, but it all varies from market to market. In the type of market that you're serving, these leads are incredibly highly valuable to you, because I imagine an engagement with you over time, if a client is, going to work with you for a period of months or maybe potentially years, that's thousands of dollars. That's like a big engagement. We're not talking like you're selling a $10, little thing that you get at the checkout at the grocery store. Like, this is a big ticket, a high ticket engagement. So to pay $9 or $11 predictably, that you can scale up and down is really powerful. So you can, want more clients, turn on the machine. Hey, honey, we're full. Like, let's slow down. Let's turn down the machine a little bit, so you can throttle it up and down as much as you want, which is really, really cool. Well, listen, I know we're tight on time. I want to take a quick look at your quiz, and then we'll wrap with one final question to kind of bring it all home. So if it's okay with you, what I'd love to do is maybe pull up your quiz on my screen, which looks amazing, by the way. I love this. I love your photo. I love the colors. I love what you've done with this. Maybe you could talk just a little bit about the concept behind the quiz. So what's blocking your visibility? What are we looking at here?
Yes, so I think the person who's wondering if they have a block, that starts to get at that right person for me, like sort of what's in my way, or that's beginning of that belief shift that, hey, maybe there's a better way I could be doing this.
I love that. And we have a little bit about yourself here, and then we've kind of alluded to that there are 5 different paths. I love what you've done here with the imagery and kind of a little bit of iconography here to kind of give a little bit of, lend itself to a little bit of curiosity around who am I? Like which one am I? And what do these things all mean exactly? I got to take this quiz to find out, which is great. So tell us a little bit about your business. Is it a new business or an existing business? Which of the following best describes your existing business? It is sideline, expanding, scaling. And so you're getting all this great information. I love this question here. You know, if you had to choose which of these 5 options, which best describes you and your marketing and visibility efforts? I think this is kind of fun, asking, you know, which animal they most identify with, which is a cool, fun, engaging way to ask this question. How would you describe your skills? I'll say I'm a total newbie. And we go down this path where you're really able to ask these really thoughtful and thought-provoking questions that I think do a few things here. Number one, they get the person thinking, which you alluded to. But I think one of the things that's really powerful about this approach, and I think you're doing a great job with it, is you know, if you've ever had a conversation with someone where they ask you a really good question, and that question really makes you think, it immediately, in your mind, makes you perceive that person to be an expert. Like, they don't have to, you know, beat their chest and say, hey, I've done this and I've done that, and here are my accolades. Or, like, just someone asking you a really thoughtful question, especially if you're a coach or a consultant, is a tremendously effective way to demonstrate your expertise and leads people to want to know, well, Linda, great question. So what do I do about it? Like, what would you recommend in my next step, in my situation? So I love the way that you're doing that. Now, if I type my email address, what happens on, where am I going to on this next page? Where am I directed to?
Well, hopefully you're going to the you know, thank you page and the report. Yeah, great. So it worked. This is the old one, so I want to make sure it still worked. But so then this is, yeah. So at the time we were selling a $10 item, right? Because I didn't have the back end created for the webinar. So to get us started, and this is an important point, I think, you know, that you're gonna get started where you are. All I had to sell in this like sort of online space at the moment was the book, because I didn't want to take on more coaching clients. So we were selling a $10 item in this case. And, you know, we did sell a few. Like you said, it wasn't going to pay for itself, given that the leads were $8 to $10, but this let us get going, right? And it let the person begin to have an experience with me and my work.
And what it does, I mean, it's 2 things. One is if they buy that thing or not, it gives them a great first impression, great first experience with you that can lead to other things. And number 2, I'm a big believer in using a quiz to create your pre-launch list. So even if you're not quite ready to launch, there's no more effective, no better way to launch with success than to have an audience of people who are waiting for the thing that you're going to launch. Right? Most people think, all right, I've got to make it perfect. I'm going to create all the things. And then when I'm absolutely ready, then I'm going to launch. But there's nothing more motivating than having 232 people on your email list who are waiting for that next thing that you can say, all right, it's ready now. Who wants in? So I'm with you on starting before you're ready and starting when it's less than perfect.
Yeah. And now we have the webinar. So I will go back to those folks, you know, for the webinars that are starting next week.
It's beautiful. And so we've got some great results right here. These are the 232 opt-ins that we took a look at just a moment ago. Incredibly high completion rate. So almost 86% of people completing the quiz, 69% opt-in rate. Like that's excellent. I mean, you think about, you know, 69% on cold traffic, and this was Facebook ads, right? That we're driving traffic to?
Facebook ads completely cold. So you think about that $10 cost could come down over time when we start having more content and warming folks up. I'm confident that we're at like sort of the top end of my ad spend.
Absolutely. And as you get more and more experience, you'll be able to dial in your targeting. You'll see what segments convert better than others. You'll be able to, you know, these quizzes are intelligent in the sense that the worst they're ever going to perform is out of the gate. Because as you learn more, hey, you know, people who answer this question are converting better than, you know, my hamsters are converting better than my parrots. So let's attract more hamsters, you know, on that fun question that you ask. So you can do all sorts of things like that. Now, before we wrap, because I know we're a few minutes past our time here, I will ask kind of one last question. And that is, you know, so Linda, we've kind of shared a little bit about your story. I think we've gotten a sense for the impact that this is going to have on you and your life, and shifting and changing that paradigm for you, and being able to you know, really do the things that are important to you. You know, what would you say to someone who's, watching this interview right now, they're maybe in a similar situation that you were in not too long ago. They're watching this and maybe they have an opportunity to sign up for the upcoming quiz training, but they're on the fence. And they're like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Is it worth it? Is it really as great as people are saying it is, or Ryan's saying it is? Like, what would you say to someone who's in that situation, or anything else that you'd like to add if you want to speak from the heart before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I just want to point out how doable this is, and I have a new team member, and he has a perspective. I don't know if you can show that photo, but my newest team member wanted to weigh in because he had a point of view that that this is very doable, because what I didn't tell you is when I did all of this, I was pregnant. So I was pregnant, 5 months pregnant when I joined and started working on the quiz, and that version of the quiz launched seven weeks after he was born. Right. So if you're worried, like, no, I've got 10,000 things going on, like, so did I. I was working, I was pregnant, I'm getting ready to have a baby, and I'm able to do all of these little quiz modules, right? So that the information's parsed out in a way that you consume it when you can, and it's all, as long as you just take the next step, you can make it happen, even if you have a lot going on and have sort of this big personal life happening.
Awesome. Well, Linda, I just want to say thanks so much. Your story is super inspiring. It's put a big, giant smile on my face. And I love the perspective that you've offered, and how you got to where you are here, how you made the decision that led you to pursue this path in the first place. And, I'm super impressed and super inspired. The fact that you had as much as you did going on, and to get this launch all at the same time, like that's pretty impressive. So I just want to say thanks so much for taking time to share your story, and for giving us a peek inside your business and inside your life.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. So with that said, again, this is Ryan Levesque. I've been here with Linda Basso, and if you're watching this interview right now and you're thinking, gosh, I'd love to learn a little bit more, you're in luck, because your timing is perfect. And the reason for that is once a year, we do an absolutely free quiz funnel workshop where we go through the process of creating one of these quiz funnels from start to finish. We talk about things like the 3 types of quiz funnels and how to decide which one's right for you, the 5 biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to creating one of these quizzes, and what to do instead. We talk about the tools and the technology and the process for how to get started, including that very first step. And we go through dozens of examples. So we looked at one example today, but we go through all sorts of examples in all sorts of different markets, from B2C, B2B, markets like e-commerce, coaching, consulting, freelancing, and solopreneurs. We look at digital courses and digital programs and software and technology. We look at local businesses. We look at lead generation. We look at complete beginners who have taken this process and used it to launch their business from scratch. And so if you're interested or even just curious, I'd love to invite you to join us by going to the link quizfunnelworkshop.com. That's quizfunnelworkshop.com. Again, it's totally free. The only catch is we only do this once a year. So now's the time, and your timing is absolutely perfect. I'll be doing this live, and I'm really excited to invite you to join us. So quizfunnelworkshop.com is the link. Look forward to seeing you there. And otherwise, thanks so much for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you inside. Take care, and have a great rest of your day.